Hey, Jason.
Hey, Jen.
What are you listening to this week? Welcome to Season 3 of What Are You Listening To? The weekly podcast created to foster community through music by sharing the stories behind the songs that soundtrack our lives. Some of the songs are old, some new, all good. I'm Jenn Tully, and this week we are spotlighting Austin-based band The Lennings. I'm joined by Jason Silverberg. Jason is the singer-songwriter who created the project. The Lennings focus on infectious melodies, lush harmonies, percussive arrangements, and lyrics dissecting the beauty and absurdity in the mundane and innate. They also have a new song, Secondhand, that we'll be featuring on today's episode. We'll learn more about Jason on today's All Lennings episode. For the best listening experience, I recommend tuning into the show on Spotify. There you can hear the show with the songs we discuss incorporated. You can also find the show on Apple, Amazon Music, or wherever you stream. But if you're not listening on Spotify, be sure to give the playlist a listen and then tune into our conversation. With that, let's get started. Jason, I'm not going to ask what you're listening to this week because we're dedicating this whole episode to songs from the Lennings catalog. Okay. So I'm really excited to get to this first song because it's your new song. Can you tell me about it?
Of course. First of all, thanks for having me. I love the show, and I'm really happy to be here.
Yay, I'm so glad to have you. You're going to, like I said before we started recording, you're going to hear me fangirling all over the episode. So please be gracious and patient. I'm so excited to have you here. And there's so much to talk about.
Okay. All right. So Secondhand. It's a new song. I'm excited that it's going to see the light of day. I like it because it came together really, really quickly. It sort of just tumbled out of my head. I wrote it in a matter of minutes, and even the recording came together pretty quickly. And it's a song about social awkwardness and insecurity and all these things that everyone can relate to in some ways. And it's also about letting go of all that, which everyone can relate to in some ways.
Yep.
So, yeah, new beginnings.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
I'm so honored that you shared this song with us first. You know, I love it, and I'm so stoked to share it with our listeners. And I think that one of the things I really love about it is it feels so reflective, right? It feels like it's so interesting to hear that it just poured out of you, because it really does feel like every time I listen to it, I'm able to almost conjure a full story in my head, you know, of what it's about. And strangely too, like the mood of the song perfectly matches the lyrics. We talk a lot about how sometimes you're singing a song and you think like, oh, it's so happy, it's so great. And then you listen to the lyrics and you're like, ooh, heavy. This one I feel like goes together so perfectly. And I don't know, like, is that intentional? Is that just, you know, how you like to sound? Is the mood and the lyrics matching, or the congruency there? Is that important to you? Is it something you consciously think about? I just fired like 17 questions in one.
No. I definitely get it. And yeah, definitely intentional. And I think, you know, we started off with drum wise, it was going to be really, the drums were a lot heavier than they ended up being.
Okay.
And it ended up, I wanted it to really just be just a kick drum and a snare. Very simple, almost like sounding like a drum machine. Mm-hmm. But that was just me playing it. But it does sound like a drum machine. It's really, really simple. And vocally, I'm singing it, I guess, like the character in the song, which is also me and you and everyone.
Right.
But singing it in a closed off kind of way, like shying away from the mic kind of.
Yeah, like vibing almost. That's what it feels like to me. It's almost like you can feel the isolation, you know, like that was one of the notes that I wrote. Like I wrote actually isolation ? I'm like, is that what I'm feeling right now listening to this? Or am I just so relating to the story that you're telling that it's making me it's making me feel that.
Right. I think it was the feeling of being a wallflower is what I wanted
Yeah.
to come through. And that's why in the video, you see the person wearing the hoodie with the denim jacket
Yep.
and it's just like caving in on themselves. And that's how it came through vocally too.
Wow. Yeah, it's just so, and I have to call out, like I said, I think I told you this too before we started recording. I love that you're a lyrics person. And so I'm going to talk a lot about your lyrics. I hope that's not weird for you to repeat back lyrics that you've written, but
No, that would be fun.
I love, love, love the line where you say second hand from ticking, second hand from taking.
Thanks.
And I'm like, how come nobody's thought of that before? How come that's not a lyric that registers more? Because it really is a great way of encapsulating that like time marches on, right? There's nothing we can do, no amount of fretting or worrying or replaying things in our head
Right.
can change the fact that that clock's going to keep ticking and that time is going to keep taking like days, hours, minutes, seconds away from us. And that just, for whatever reason, that just, and I think you say it twice in the song, and it just, both times, it just resonates. Like, it's like, I hear those lyrics louder than others. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
It's just so beautiful. And I felt like it captured something that seemed like it made me think, like, have I heard that before? No, I really haven't. And it's such a great way to encapsulate that feeling of time marching on.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It yeah, like I said, it really came together really quickly. And I usually write thinking about the shape of words, like the sounds they make rather than what they actually mean.
Okay.
But with this one originally, like the opening line of the song is calling all lonely souls in hiding. Yep. And I remember when I had the melody and just started mumbling, the first mumble sounded like calling all lonely. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it sounded kind of like that.
Okay.
And then from that line, everything fell right into place.
Wow. I just think that must be so cool when something comes out that way, like seemingly effortless, like I know that it doesn't, or I'm assuming it probably doesn't always happen like that. But when it does, are you just like, thank you for the creative muses. Thank you for the gift.
Yeah, that's only happened to me a few times.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, I think that as we transition from Secondhand into another favorite of mine, I'm really interested as well in this one. This song has amazing lyrics too that I cannot wait to get into. So tell me about your second pick.
The second pick is a song called New Year.
Okay.
And that one, so I remember hearing a little kid say that on New Year's Eve, when the ball is about to drop and you're watching it on TV, in those final seconds, he would jump off the couch and be in midair when the year would change. And he didn't have a real reason for it. He just, I don't know. It's one of those things. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense, but that always stuck with me. And I started to wonder what really could happen. And I think if you're there and if you're in midair as the year's changing, all bets are off. The next year begins whenever you're ready. You call the shots. And then the whole song just goes on, talking about time and space and how nothing is really real. And by the way, that's something I think about all the time, that we just walk through life not really knowing why we're here or what anything is, but we just go along with it and don't really think about it or talk about it. But that's a big question. That's the eternal question. And
truly.
So yeah, the song just started with the New Year thing and just led to this bigger question.
Well, and so empowering. The very first thing that I wrote, my very first note here, and here I go again, quoting your lyrics back to you, but the song starts with the story you just shared. I've been told that if you're in midair as the year's changing, the next one begins whenever you're ready, or stay there in between. And now that I know the story, like how empowering, right? That sort of means that like the new year doesn't happen to you, like you happen to it. You dictate when it happens. And I love that. It
Right.
changes the song for me almost, right? Like it changes from kind of this, we are just going along and, not really like knowing what exactly is going to happen, or almost like an absence of free will. And then
Right.
like hearing the way you tell the story, it's like really taking ownership of that free will and like, hey, I have the power to even dictate when a year starts for me, like rather than going along with the convention of like January 1st is when the
Right.
year starts. Like, I love that.
Wasn't there a Seinfeld episode where Kramer didn't do daylight savings time?
There was, yes.
It's kind of like that.
Right. This is the Sonic version of that
Yeah.
Seinfeld episode.
Right. Oh, and by the way, also all the voices in the beginning of that song.
Uh-huh.
So those are all friends that have, we've all been in musical projects together over the years. So that's my friend Jackie McKenna in New York,
Okay.
Colin Gilmore and Chris Nelson and Nicolette Good are all Austinites. And my friend Julienne Jolis in Angers, France is on there. And the great Christina Martin and Dale Murray and Stephen Bowers from Canada.
Wow.
They're all there.
I love that. Well, and again, I feel like it creates that richness that I'm talking about, right? That richness and that feeling of, even though you're singing about, or like thematically, I was getting like isolation, just again, listening through the Lennings catalog in general, like you can feel some themes emerging. And that was what was so, amazing to me, was that I would feel like this sense of isolation, whether it was the way the song was being sung or the mood it was giving me. But then there's this very rich instrumentation, or like you said, these rich harmonies, or these like multiple voices that you're like, well, wait a minute, how can I feel alone when I'm hearing all of these instruments or all of these voices at the same time? So I loved like the mental challenge that I got and the stories that were conjured when I was listening to the whole catalog, honestly, not just these 4 songs. But I think that there's something really genius about songs that make you think that way, right? That make you question like how the incongruency between the way you're feeling and what you're hearing, and then how you're processing it,
Right. I was just listening to The Police.
Oh, a favorite.
All those songs, these suicidal toe tappers,
Right.
You're dancing along, and they're the saddest, happiest songs.
It's so true. It's so, and there's a place for that, right? Like I love sometimes when I'm surprised by lyrics, like I said, when I think I'm singing along to what I always assumed was a happy song, and then I get into the lyrics and I'm like, wait a minute. But I also really love it when things match up, and then, or you think they match up, and then you're sort of forced to reckon with that as you listen more and more times.
Right.
And I think there's another, there are a couple more lyrics in this song that I have to call out. One is, you are what you believe, and what are you reading these days? I mean, how many people have you heard, especially of late, and as we're heading into an election year, like I just have to turn the news off, right? Exactly. Like I have to just stop, and I have to take a break. And I love that really is kind of a call to action there, right? Like you're putting this information in your head, like you can stop, again, back to that free will. Like you don't have to do it just because we're told, you have to be informed in this way. If it gets to be too much, turn it off.
Right.
Turn it off.
Yeah. I actually got a message on Instagram asking me if that lyric was thinly veiled, or if the song itself was a thinly veiled jab at religion and tying it into politics and everything. And I don't know. I like that it spun out in different directions for different people, but it's the same thing. Even a line like that, the one that you just said, can put people on the defense. Yeah,
it's true. And then I think you go in and you like, it gets deeper and deeper, right? You ask more probing questions in things like, we'll never see something we truly understand anyway. Why do we fixate on, this is the way things have to be when we never? And then I started thinking about that. Like, is there anything that I truly understand? Like, is there one thing? And really, there isn't. Like,
there really
I can
isn't.
have my understanding of it, but is that a true understanding? I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
it's like
love that.
the drop off between science and religion is, you can eat an apple and take the seed out and put it in the ground and water it, and it becomes a tree that grows more apples, and we can get that down to a science, and we know how that works. But as for why that happens in the first place, no one has any idea.
Right. Yeah, magic.
And that just blows me
Right.
away. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really do think about that stuff all the time.
Yeah, well, you can tell. And like I said, it forced me to think about it in a different way with a new perspective and new eyes and ears as I was going through the catalog. And this is the last one, but I cannot let this episode go without reading this lyric because I love it so, so much. The song also says, and every love and regret and all that hasn't happened yet can be seen so clear without the aid of smoke and mirrors. Oh man, that one's like, it's hard to even say without getting emotional. Like, I just think that, so much of what we do, like we have this authentic experience and then almost immediately we think, or maybe I should say me, almost immediately I think of how to retell it or how to relive it or how to re-experience it. And with that, you start applying lenses, right? And it becomes like this game of telephone almost that you're playing with yourself, where like, can't we just remember like the authentic experience without having to shade it in any way or even apply meaning or perceived meaning to it,
Right.
like without getting like super philosophical and inception for this episode. I just, that line, like it resonated so much. And I thought it was so beautiful and so thoughtful. So if nothing else from, I'll be thanking you all throughout the show, but for that lyric and just the eye-opening message in it, I have to thank you. I love it.
Wow, that's really sweet. I really appreciate that. I always thought about this line that I heard a long, long time ago, that time exists solely to prevent everything from happening at once.
Right? Yeah.
And that's what it is. Without the construct of time, it's all just on this level playing field.
It's true.
So that's what it is.
It's so true. Or we'd have different markers, right? Like things would be more like before and after rather than, before and after the significant event rather than at 4:00 on a Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. There's still cause and effect.
Right. Yeah. Well, we showcased some new Lennings music with your picks. And then I went old school. I kind of dug back into your catalog, back to 2011 and 2007, and picked a couple of older Lennings songs that I really love. Great. So my first pick is another one I'm super excited to share with those listeners that haven't heard. I think a lot of folks probably have, but with those that haven't, this song is a true gem, and I love it. This is called You're the One That I Want. And most people are going to recognize that title and wonder, hey, I wonder if that's that same song from Grease that John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John sang. And the answer, I'm happy to report, is yes.
Yeah,
it is that same song. And a quick note, the very first people, again, that listen to the show know that I love vinyl. I have a pretty extensive record collection. And the very first record I ever bought was the double fold-out album of the Grease soundtrack. So for those of us that are old enough to remember, it was an amazing album that I think I actually, like, the album like broke. I played it so much that it just like, it couldn't be played anymore at a certain point. And so the fact that I got to hear a completely reimagined version of this song that I love so much, that I've known since I was a kid, that I could probably sing all the lyrics to since I was 5 years old. I got such a fresh take on such a beloved classic song. Like, I have to know how this came about. How, like, were you asked to do a cover of this? Did you want to do this cover? Please tell me about how this song became reimagined.
I think, well, first of all, I'm with you on the vinyl. My parents had that record, and I remember being like 4 years old, staring at that album cover and thinking Olivia Newton-John was the most beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And so when it came time to do this song, yeah, I wasn't asked to do it. I think I just heard it, like, Grease was on TV or something, and I was listening to the song and just only focusing on the lyrics and not the big cheesy production of it.
Right.
And I said, I think there's an actual love song in there. And then I was looking through this songbook, like a cheat book of different American songs, and that one happened to be in there. And I was thinking about the way that the bass line goes in that song, which is like ding 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 ding
Yep.
ding ding ding. And I said, well, what if I slowed that down and made it kind of a dreary, almost sad version of the same thing, like ding 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 ding.
Yep.
And it was just this bedroom recording that I made with my friend Rob Newcomer. He had his computer and we just recorded it, I think, in 1 or 2 takes.
Wow.
And it just became this big thing. And
yeah. Well, and for listeners that don't know, the song appeared in a 2011 episode of the NBC show Parenthood. And I don't know if the song being in the show, what's your opinion of that? Was it good? Were you happy about it?
I was happy about it.
You were? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was just the most surreal experience, being on NBC after,
it's such a huge show.
And also just a whole childhood of watching NBC sitcoms and just, I don't know, technically being a part of that just blew my mind. It was really weird and fun. And I had a bunch of friends at the house watching it, and we're all
so cool,
drinking champagne and just cracking up at the weirdness of it. And yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah. And I love that, I love that TV is sort of really getting their head in that game now. I feel like I first remember it with like shows like the OC, and things like that, where they were really kind of launching bands and launching songs. And now it's almost part of the deal, with Stranger Things and the way they've been able to, revive hits. Even shows like, Dickinson, where they're really featuring like new music coming out. I love that now that MTV is sort of gone, and at least in its original inception, I like that other TV shows are kind of picking up that mantle of exposing us to new music and new songs. Exactly. And so I love that the song featured prominently in such a big show. This is just a random question, but because we're talking about this particular song in general, how do you feel about covers? Do you like doing covers, or was this one, like you said, you just kind of heard and were like, there's something there? What's your general stance on covers?
I love doing covers. I've done so many covers, and I remember years ago, anytime I was ever working on a record, in the meantime, I would always just record a bunch of covers at home and just post those online. So I think it's really fun, especially when you can completely turn a song upside down and do a totally different version of it.
And then maintain some of the original magic of it too. I'm always curious about like what choices people are going to make, especially when a song so well. Like, are they going to do like the specifically, and you're the one that I want, like, is there going to be a section where he does the woo-hoo-hoo honey, right. Like, how is that going to translate into this version? And so I will let listeners take a listen to see how you tackled it. But it's like a Easter egg, right? To like figure out like how it's going to sound, especially whenever it's translated kind of differently, this version. So I love that.
In the original version, when they're singing it, they're singing it in a much higher key, and they do this little yodel thing that I'm not even going to try to do right now, but you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yep.
And I don't know how they do that.
Yeah. Well,
But
and they were both like, I think for those people that know John Travolta, like now, modern day John Travolta, butchering Idina Menzel's name on the Oscars and things like that. Like, that's not what he was when this came out. They were like
right.
the superstars of the day. And this movie really like launched both of their careers. So
Yeah.
they were pretty big deals in terms of singers in their own right back then. So
Yeah.
again, to take a song like that that's so iconic and then create something that is equally good, I think is just daunting and challenging. And I'm not sure how you pulled it off, but you did. So
Thank you.
I love that. And I love this version. I can't wait to hear all the feedback we're going to get for those that are hearing it for the first time on the show.
Great. Thanks.
Well, we're going to round out the playlist with my very favorite Lennings song. I've gushed about this one to you prior to recording too, but the final pick for today's playlist is a song called Hat. Oh, this song, I can't even articulate almost like how much I've loved this song since I first discovered it. It's one of those that you hear and it's just immediately on every playlist, so that anytime I get in my car, anytime I put on my AirPods, like I'm guaranteed to hear this song at one point or another. It's so rich in so many ways. It's lyrically rich. It's musically rich. It forces me to think. It has conjured 1,000 questions that we will not have time to get to today. Not all of them, but there are so many that I have to talk to you about with this song. Like one of the things that I think you are incredibly skilled at is this opening line. Like you have these opening lines that immediately bring the listener in. This one says, "Taste this, I think it's gone bad." And there are so many things about that. Like it goes on to talk about sort of the self-doubt and how we don't trust ourselves enough to even make the simplest decisions sometimes, or at least that's the meaning I applied to it. But I also think it's funny that, this line also kind of encapsulates like the misery loves company idea, right?
Yeah.
Like if this is bad, why do you want somebody else, probably somebody, if they're in the room with you that you love, to also have this awful experience, right?
Right.
What's happening there? Like, but I just think like, is that something again that's deliberate? Like, do you think to yourself, I can't release this song until I have an amazing opening line? Or is that just kind of how you write? Like you start there and the rest of the song builds?
Yeah, I think that a line like that, it's not a really poetic line in any way. I think it's just weird. And I like injecting things like that. I like starting with a line like that and saying, okay, now where can this possibly go? And I think that's something that I've always liked in music, in comedy, in movies. When the artists can take what they're doing seriously without taking themselves seriously. I really like that. So that line, I think that was something that happened that day. Like I tasted something and said that to someone and said, well, I could do something with that today.
There's something to go there. Yeah. I again, whatever, deliberate or not, all of your songs seem to have this like a magical opening line that from the very beginning, I'm really curious about what you're going to say next. Like it sucks me in a way that's not really very common. I think it's hard to do that. And sometimes it is the hook or the chorus, that are designed to do that. But you have these like amazing opening lines that every time I'm like, wow, how did he manage to do that again?
I'm really glad you're hearing them.
I love it. And then I think musically too, this is also my favorite song musically. And again, I think it's the layers. Like I love the guitar, both steel and acoustic. And then I'm listening again and I'm like, wait, is that a mandolin that's coming in? Is it a banjo? Is it like, what is that? This arrangement is just perfect to my ear. The chord progressions, everything. It just sounds so good. This is one where I close my eyes and I'm just immediately transported to like the exact sonic space I want to be in.
Wow.
I love it.
That's great.
And I think it's a real thinker, like I wonder, and I have to ask, like, is the hat literal or metaphorical? Like, what does the hat represent?
The hat, well, the feel of the song in general, for some reason, I saw it in almost sepia tone.
Okay.
with with a car driving down the highway, and it was like this shiny beige car, and it was like a really long, shiny beige car. And I don't know why that was there, but I had a friend in college named Osvaldo, and he was a great songwriter, and he wrote a song that mentioned a big beige car.
Okay.
And this was there, and I contacted him, and I wrote this song. I said, hey, listen to this. Can I do this? And can I call the album this? And he said, absolutely. Blessing is given.
Wow.
So then going further with that image, seeing the car go down the highway, I kept seeing someone's hat blow off their head as they're driving along, and then off into the distance, and the hat is just left there floating around wherever it ends up.
Yeah. It almost reminds me of like the opening of Forrest Gump, you know, like when you
Like
see
the
the
feather.
feather. Yeah. Yeah, like it's that's what I kept thinking of. But then I would look at like the album art and I'm like, well, but the car's not a convertible.
Right.
So did the hat just blow off in the window? And then there's also a section of lyrics where you talk about you know, I can't remember the exact lyric, but it's like saving a seat on their bike for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, but there's also on a bicycle. And is the she referenced in the song a real person? Like, again, I just like every time I listen, I have a new question about the song, and it keeps bringing me back to it. I love that about it. I don't know if some people would be like, no more questions.
Right.
For me, I'm like, oh, it makes me want to listen to it over and over, because every time I'm like, what's the surprise going to be this time around? You know, what am I going to find new this time listening?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those situations where the song just kept going, and I would send lines out and not know where they would end up. So there isn't really a specific person in the song.
Wow.
But the hat tumbling in the wind is just floating around. That's what stuck with me.
Wow, I love it. Well, and then you like, you know, the beautiful like close to all of it about the hat, you know, is at the very end whenever it says something about like when I find my hat again, I'll name it after you. Right? I was just like, oh, perfect bow, like the perfect bow at the end of a song. Like, love it.
Thanks.
Love, love, love. Well, I feel like I've done all of the gushing I can probably do for one episode. So I will say again, like, thank you so much, Jason, for agreeing to do the show and for giving us a preview of Secondhand. I feel so lucky that you shared it with us. I believe that KUTX is going to also feature this song as the song of the day tomorrow. Right. So be sure to tune in to 98.9 if you're local, or stream KUTX to hear the song in the wild. And we'll also post links to the song on our social media. I also would love to post the link to the video for New Year.
Oh, yeah, please do.
I really love that as well. And then to learn more about the Lennings, you can visit their website at www.lenningsland.com. That's LENNINGSLAND.com, or follow them on Instagram at Lenningsland with the same spelling, LENNINGSLAND. Also, this season, we have a new way to connect with our Waylit listeners. You can call, text, or leave us a Google Voice message at 512-900-9169. We've so enjoyed all the messages and comments so far. So please continue to leave them, and you could also be featured on an upcoming episode of the show. As always, please be sure to follow, download, and share this show. And last but not least, to stay informed on all things Super Awesome Mix and what are you listening to, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Super Awesome Mix. Thanks for listening, and please join me again next week to find your new favorite song.